Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Mark Castro. I'm a licensed real estate broker and practicing property manager for 22 years now. I have a number of clients and I also receive several calls from prospective clients with numerous different questions. And these videos are directed at answering those questions, and so that those would be prospective clients can also take note. And I also provide you with public resources. But if you do need a more personalized form, or if you need some advice, then you're also welcome to reach out to us. But in any event, let's go ahead and get started. So this form here, as a disclosure, this form is a form from the Apartment Owners Association of California. That's a disclosure because YouTube is very particular about copyright material. So this isn't a form that I created. This is a form that is offered to you by the Apartment Owners Association of California. And all I'm doing is giving a brief explanation over one vital resource that's in this form that is very helpful to you. So the question is, I receive a number of inquiries from prospective owners. And some of the questions are, well, Mark, can I charge a tenant for damages to plumbing? For example, they flush too much TP down the line. Or, it's known that tenants will sometimes even flush tampons, or perhaps when bathing, too much hair goes into the drain line. So this question or this form will help us answer some of that. And then I have another vital resource, and that is that's the rental agreement or the lease agreement by the car. That's by California Association of Realtors, and that's a very vital form that we're going to take a look at after this one here. So anyway, this form is the house rules form. There you go. Look at that. And if we look at line item number 9, so this one speaks of, it says, resident is responsible for cost of repairs to plumbing. But it continues though. It says plumbing fixtures and appliances should damage be caused from negligence or misuse. So that's a very key element there, because tenants, there's this misconception where tenants feel that, well, just simply because they pay rent, if the drain line backs up, then they're simply going to pick up the phone, dial the landlord, and then the landlord has to take care of it. It's mandatory. The landlord has to take care of it. And that's a misconception, because in reality, one key element to determining whether or not a landlord has to be the one to bear the cost of the repair is going back to the origin of the cost. And the origin has a lot to do with it, because, for example, if the origin of the cost of the damage is from tree roots in the drain line, then at that point, the landlord is the one that must bear the cost and handle the repair. However, there is one piece that's missing here, though. If the tenant were to call the local city code enforcement or the health department, and they come out, when the code enforcement decide to perform an inspection, they will obligate the landlord to handle the repairs. At the end of the day, ultimately, the landlord is ultimately responsible for all repairs to the unit. The landlord is actually ultimately responsible for habitability. And the reason behind this is because, for the most part, government agencies are going to follow the money. It's presumed that the landlord, because the landlord is the property owner, that the landlord has a greater amount of wealth than the tenant who is actually renting and doesn't own property. So for that reason alone, the landlord bears the ultimate responsibility of habitability. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that the landlord has to bear the cost of the repair. And that is separated by whether or not whether or not the landlord's able to make the determination, or through discovery, the origin of the cause. So if the plumbing backup was created by the tenant because of neglect or misuse, then at that point the landlord can bill back the tenant for the cost of the repairs, whether or not he called his personal handyman, or he called someone off of Yellow Pages. I don't even know if that exists anymore, but you know what I mean, like Google or Yelp. But whether or not the landlord he or she contacted an independent contractor to come out and perform repairs, or the landlord does it himself, then at that point the landlord can't technically bill back for labor, but he can bill for supplies. However, if you do get an independent contractor, then at that point you can forward the entire balance of that service onto to the tenant. Although the contractor won't like it, so what you're going to have to do, or what the landlord's going to have to do, is the landlord will have to upfront the cost. They will have to upfront the entire service. So if the landlord is the one that's contacting the contractor, then the landlord's going to be the one to pay the contractor, and then seek reimbursement from the tenant by billing the tenant. So let's go ahead and proceed with this, and I'm going to use some highlights. So what we have on here, it says, and I'm going to try to highlight and speak at the same time and time it properly, but it says on here that the resident is responsible for cost of repairs to plumbing, and then it says, plumbing fixtures and appliances should damage be caused from negligence or misuse. Okay. It also goes into further detail where it talks about foreign items causing stoppage of waste, jamming of mechanism is considered improper use. So there's a clear outline as to what is improper use. And then it says, and repair costs shall be paid by the resident. So this is a key element. And what I like to do, at least with my moving packet, whether I use this form or I use a form by Platinum Blue Realty, which is my real estate firm, whether I use one drafted by Platinum Blue Realty, or I use one by the apartment associations, or I use a car form, this is a very vital tool, because as a disclosure tool, not only there's two things that I like to do. I like to obviously acquire a signature. You gotta have a signature, because it's the only way you're gonna be able to demonstrate disclosure. So you must have a signature. But I go a step further in each and every one of these. Now, why do I go a step further? First of all, it's not required. However, you can never do too much. You can do too little and fall short, but you can never do too much when you're trying to prevent misunderstandings. So one pattern that I have learned over my 22-year experience is that tenants, when it comes to litigation, and by the time you either go before a judge in a UD case, an unlawful detainer case, or you're having to for example, deal with code enforcement, and you're defending your own case. You're trying to defend your own case. When you present evidence that the tenant has been made aware of their obligations, the tenants will usually say, look, it was a move-in. We were packed. We had been packing the entire day. We have the U-Haul, just packed. Or we were helping the movers, we were just guiding them or what have you. We were too preoccupied, and by the time we sat down with the property manager to go over the lease agreement, the property manager presented me, a stack of documents which needed to be signed. In essence, technically a book. And it was just so much information that we couldn't retain anything, and we don't recall reading any of the documents. The property manager said, sign here, and we did. So we weren't fully made aware. However, while it's the responsibility of the signing party, or in this case the tenant, to actually go back and review the documents. At that point, they can technically claim, well, you know what, we signed the document, but we never reviewed it, or we signed a document and we reviewed it after the fact, but at that point the document was already executed. So in order to overcome that, because that can become a good defense in an unlawful detainer case, what I like to do is go a step further. So in addition to obtaining a signature, I like to obtain initials. I like to obtain, and my name is Mark Castro, so I'm going to use the MC as an initial, but I like to obtain initials anywhere that contain any particular area of any form that I use that contains vital information, or just keywords or key phrases that I know will help me in the future. So since I've been doing this for 22 years, I already have, just I have all these forms memorized, and I don't have them initial. Let's see, like right here, there's like 15 paragraphs. I'm not going to have the tenant's initial 15 different paragraphs or along the side of 15 paragraphs. I'm going to have them sign along the most common issues that arise, that are known to arise during my 22-year career. So at that point, I know that this is one of them. So by the time, and I'll use my signature, and I'll just go ahead and create one for a tenant. I'll just make it up. But by the time we're done with the form, you'll end up with something like this. You'll end up with something like this. So when it comes time to, because it doesn't always occur that you'll end up with, facing a UD case with each and every one of your tenants, but it doesn't hurt to be prepared, as opposed to, just taking a proactive approach as opposed to a reactive approach, and trying to prepare for a case or build a case when the time arises. So by the time you end up in front of a judge defending your case, now you have this wonderful tool right here with acknowledgement by signature and a demonstration of initials over the important topics that were actually expressed or shared or disclosed to the tenant, or to the prospective tenant at the time of the move-in, right? To the prospective tenant prior to them moving in. That way, the prospective tenants have been afforded, through proper disclosure, they have been afforded the opportunity to make an informed decision. And that's a huge key element to winning an eviction case. And that is the fact that you have afforded the prospective tenant, before they become an actual tenant, you have afforded the prospective tenant the opportunity to make an informed decision based on disclosure. Why is that such a powerful statement? Well, very simple. Because if you disclose information to the prospective tenant before they become a tenant, okay, and by disclosure, that prospective tenant has the opportunity to make an informed decision and say, look, I'm okay with all the terms and conditions. I'm making an informed decision to proceed and move in or take possession, or I don't like these terms. And you know what? I don't think I'm going to rent here. I'm going to back out. So at that point, all the leverage is on your side. That is why this is such a key element. It's a very vital form, and just highlighting some of this stuff is just it's a good practice. But that's all I have for this forum. I'm sure that questions will arise. If any of you have questions, feel free to drop a comment. Shoot me an email at markmcastro@msn.com. That is Mark, spelled with the C, not with the K, MARC, followed by middle initial MS and Mary, last name Castro, and that is CASTRO, at msn.com. Once again, markmcastro@msn.com. But if you do like this video, please subscribe, like the video, and hit the notification bell. Because there are going to be other videos coming up each and every week. I promise I'm going to bring new videos over to you each and every week. But I can't I can't honor that promise if you guys don't subscribe, because that is the only indication that I have that these videos are important to people. And, after practicing property management for 22 years, my time is very valuable. And I can't put out videos if no one is liking them. So, there's the only way that we can interact in YouTube is subscriptions, notifications, messaging. So, you have any comments? If you have other topics you'd like me to explain, this is free advice. YouTube is free. The video is free. Just, hit me up with a comment. Send me an email. But best of all, please support the channel. Because, again, without that support, how am I to know that, anyone's listening to my information, anyone's valuing the information that I'm providing? And, if I'm wasting my time, then I guess this isn't, an effort that I don't need to be making, if you know what I mean, or if you understand my drift. But, again, kindly subscribe, like, or, message down below. Thank you for watching, and just, keep a lookout for other videos that are coming your way.